You're not supposed to freaking sigh. Hi, my name is Casey Wainwright. I'm 5'11", and I'm from... This isn't Tinder, Casey. You can't lie about your height. My name is Casey Wainwright. I'm 5'9" tall, and I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. As you may know, that is how you slate for an audition. Most of the time. And if you're watching this video, you probably already knew that. I'm going to put my hat on because my hair is kind of in that stage in length where it's just kind of awkward and messy and it just kind of looks like garbage. So, 1 second. It's a little better. And depending on the role that you guys are auditioning for, you probably look like this. But like I already told you, my name is Casey Wright. I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. And I'm an actor, photographer, and filmmaker. So subscribe to my channel, you know. Now I'm fairly new to this whole YouTube thing, but I wanted to make sure I have a channel that showcases a lot of the things that I enjoy, which is acting, photography, and filmmaking. Like I just said. And if you're watching this video, the chances are that you are a fellow actor like myself. And if you're anything like me, you've probably did that exact same slate probably like 100 to 1,000 times, depending on how many years you've been doing this. So you probably already knew how a slate worked, but what you may not know is how to get a bitchin' setup like this. I've gotten a number of compliments from not only just fellow actors, but from casting directors from pretty much all around the United States about how my auditioning setup looks. And believe it or not, that actually matters more than you probably think. So in this video, I want to show you guys kind of the behind the scenes look at how I film and the whole setup behind the scenes of my at-home self-tape auditions. This video is probably going to be pretty quick, so without further ado, this is what I would consider the perfect at-home auditioning setup. First things first, let's talk about your backdrop. Now there are a few different ways that you can add a backdrop to pretty much any room. The way I do it is I actually have a whole entire wall that I just painted this mid-toned gray. And the reason why I pick gray is just because it's a neutral color. It's not going to be overbearing for the eye. Now I know a lot of people use those like bright blue like screens that they just like put up and they pop up and it comes up right here. In my opinion, those are super ugly and they're kind of an eyesore. Not only that, but they reflect a blue light onto your skin, which just doesn't really look that appealing anyways, and it's not really your true skin tone, obviously, unless you're an alien. The reason why I like gray is because it's a very neutral color. And you can literally wear pretty much anything that you want to, and it'll look fine on this gray backdrop. But keep in mind, you have to be a little bit careful about what you wear. You can't just wear the same color as the backdrop in the background. I know this shirt that I'm wearing isn't really the best example of this. I don't usually wear this during auditions unless I have some other sort of a color in the background. But gray overall is an amazing color to use. It's very neutral without overpowering like maybe like a black would look. Now, if you don't have an entire wall to just paint whatever you want, you can actually just get one of those stands. They sell them on Amazon. I might even put the link down below. If you want to get one, you can. If not, great, whatever. But they sell these big stands and these big freaking, like, I don't even know what they are. They're just like unfoldable, like big giant panels that come in a bunch of different colors. There's blue and there's also a gray one as well. The wall just works good for me just because this is in my office and I happen to have just a blank wall that I get to use. And frankly, it's just easier having that there, not having to like clean up a big mess at the end of the audition and then keep setting it up every time I get an audition. The next thing I want to show you actually kind of goes hand in hand with the background. And a lot of people actually don't think about this, but this part is super important. This is probably one of the most important parts, and that is lighting. Now these are the Phottix Nuada R3 LED panel lights, and just keep in mind, I don't just use one, I use two. Now, the biggest reason why I have two of them is because you'll notice behind me, I don't have any shadows like really casting against the wall. Now, obviously, if I step a little closer to the wall, you'll see a couple of shadows to my left and to my right. But that is another reason why I actually use a wall as my backdrop and I just paint it, is because I can actually step up a little ways from the wall. That way, I can eliminate all the shadows that are being cast behind me. Seriously, nothing looks worse than having like 2 other shadows just casting right behind the freaking onto the backdrop behind you. That takes away from your performance, and the casting director will start looking at the shadows and like just start nitpicking at the light, which is not good. Another thing you'll notice is I don't use those ugly ass freaking ring lights. These are panel lights. They're already diffused, which casts like a soft box effect on my face. It just makes the skin like a little bit, it's not as harsh on the skin is what I'm trying to say. But I've taken a few acting, auditioning workshops from casting directors, and the number one thing that they say they hate are those ugly ass ring lights, because not only do they look just terrible on your skin, when they're looking in your eyes, they show that ugly ass like round ring on your eye, which is not very natural. You just look like a bunch of aliens. So if you are using a ring light, I'm sorry to say this, a lot of casting directors don't like it, and you need to throw it in the garbage. Now, you don't need to buy these specific lights. You can go on Amazon and get some cheaper ones. Like I said, I'm a photographer. All the gear that you see behind me is like years and years of me like purchasing just equipment just to do my job. So these are a little bit expensive, a little pricey. I think they're like $800 if you get 2 of them. But they are amazing lights. But you can find, like I said, cheaper stuff on Amazon too. I'll probably put a link below in the description. That way you guys can check out like a cheaper alternative to both of these lights. Another thing though that is awesome about these lights that I want to point out is you can attach some batteries to the back of them. These are like the MP whatever batteries. I don't know. I think they're like the Sony batteries or something. At least people say they're like the Sony batteries. I don't know exactly. But these are fairly inexpensive on Amazon too. You could just buy these with a charger and plug them in, and they actually last quite a while. Or they come with a plug too. You can just plug it into the wall. I know it's kind of hard to see on the camera. And then another thing too is you could adjust the brightness super easy with this dial. And you can change the color temperature as well to go warmer or lighter, just depending on what you're, what you're shooting or what your mood is that you're auditioning for, or the lighting or whatever it is in your house. Now that brings us to the camera. Now, this is a little disclaimer. This camera I never use to actually audition. This is just for the sake of the YouTube video. I use this camera for that opening slate that you just saw. But I would never really suggest using a nice expensive camera like this. This is like $8,000 total. So you don't need to use something fancy like this. Every audition that I've ever booked for the big roles, like for CBS and for Warner Brothers, the one that I just wrapped on, I used my cell phone. So it's super easy. It'll look pretty much the exact same as if you were using this fancy camera with your cell phone with the lighting and the backdrop and everything like that. But casting directors are going to know that you're not a freaking cinematographer who has like an $8,000 freaking camera. Just use your cell phone. Another thing too is that casting directors aren't necessarily going to want a giant file that comes with these cameras, and you can't even edit anything on these cameras anyways. You would have to export it from the camera, put it into the computer, and then edit everything together before you actually send it in, and the file size is also still going to be super huge even after that's done. So long story short, just use your cell phone. That also brings us down to the tripod too. You can get those pretty cheap on Amazon. This one was expensive too, just because, like I said, I am a photographer. So I have to spend some money to get the nicer stuff. But if you're just using your phone, all you need to do is just buy a tripod that's on Amazon. Everything's going to be linked below too. And then what I have is I have this little cell phone thingamajigger. This, if it would focus, sorry, this is why I use Canon cameras and not freaking Sony's, because Sony sucks at autofocus. I have this little cell phone camera holder thingy, and all you do is just plop it in place of where my camera actually is, and then you'll be able to fit your cell phone right in there. You've seen one of these before. They come with like all the freaking tripods nowadays. And seriously, that is literally everything. Everything you see behind me, the tripod, the 2 lights, and the backdrop is literally all that I use for my auditions. What really matters is where you're placing all of these things. Like I said, the number one thing that you probably want to really worry about is having enough room between your lights and your backdrop and your camera to actually be able to stand away from the wall. That way there's not shadows casting on you or onto the backdrop. Sorry. Still getting used to this whole YouTube talking in the camera thing. It's kind of weird and it's kind of hard. It actually goes against everything that you really are taught as an actor, to kind of ignore the camera and just kind of like it's just spying on the moments and it's not supposed to be. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. But that is literally it. That is the secret sauce to all these sexy freaking self-tapes that I'm submitting. Doesn't mean the auditions are perfect because I, you know, probably wouldn't be on YouTube. I'd be like in Hollywood making some big movies and stuff like that. But, you know, soon enough. Soon enough. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I said, all the links are in the description if you want to see the cheaper alternatives. I'll also put everything that I have in the description below. That way you guys can see how much it is. If you have the money, great, you could spend it on that. If not, I'll just go the cheaper version. After all, we are actors. So we're starving artists most of our lives. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this helpful, please subscribe. I'm going to be posting a lot of acting stuff, photography stuff, and filmmaking stuff to this channel, like I mentioned earlier. So a lot of stuff that could actually benefit you as actors. But until then, I'll see you in the next one.